Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm Leo.
And I'm Emma. It is so good to be here with you all today.
We are diving into a topic today that feels small on the surface, almost invisible, but it's actually the engine that keeps English conversation running without crashing.
Right, we're talking about agreeing and disagreeing. And before you tune out thinking, I know how to say yes and no, trust me, you probably don't realize how much weight these tiny interactions carry. Because what you say matters, but how you say it matters even more.
Exactly. You can agree or disagree with the exact same idea, and depending on your phrasing, you can sound like a diplomatic genius or, well, incredibly rude.
It's the difference between keeping a friend and losing one, honestly. So today, we are breaking down the art of polite agreement and disagreement, the way native speakers actually do it, not just what the textbooks say.
And just a quick reminder before we jump in, if you want more of this kind of deep dive into real, useful English communication, make sure you're subscribed. We post content designed to help you sound natural, not robotic.
So, Leo, where do we even start with this? Because I think most people assume that agreeing is the easy part.
It is easier, but it's not just about nodding your head. Let's look at what we call natural agreement. In school, you learn to say, yes, I agree. But if you say that in a casual bar with friends, you sound like a robot.
Totally. See what I did there?
I did, and that's actually our first point. Instead of just yes, native speakers rely heavily on these short, punchy adverbs. Things like, yeah, exactly, totally, for sure.
These phrases signal something specific. They signal relaxed confidence. Linguistically, we call this back-channeling. It's the noise you make to show the other person you are still tuned in. If I just sat here in silence while you talked, Leo, you'd think the connection dropped.
That's a great point. And there's actually some interesting research on this. Linguists like Deborah Tannen have studied conversational styles for decades, and they found that these little agreement markers, totally, right, serve a vital social function. They aren't just agreeing with the facts, they're agreeing with the relationship. They're saying, I am with you in this moment.
I love that. It's relational, not just informational. But sometimes simple agreement isn't enough. Sometimes you need to show strong agreement, right? Like you need to validate the person.
Right. If someone shares a vulnerable opinion or a really brilliant idea, saying yeah feels underwhelming. In those cases, you want to use phrases like, I couldn't agree more, or that's exactly how I see it.
Those feel much more mature, don't they? If you're in a business meeting and your boss suggests a strategy you like, saying, I couldn't agree more, adds a level of professional weight to your voice.
It does, and there's a third level of agreement that I think is the most advanced, which is agreeing and building.
The yes and technique.
Precisely. Native speakers rarely just stop at agreeing. They take the ball and run with it. So, for example, if I said to you, I think working from home saves so much time.
I wouldn't just say yes. I'd say, yeah, I agree. And it also helps people focus more because there are fewer office distractions.
See how much better that flows? You validated my point and then added value to it. That is the secret sauce of good conversation.
But now, Leo, we have to go to the dark side. We have to talk about disagreement, because this is where English learners, and honestly, native speakers too, get into trouble.
The danger zone. This is where culture really plays a huge role. In some cultures, say German or Dutch culture, generally speaking, directness is valued. If you're wrong, someone might just tell you, no, that is incorrect, and it's not seen as an attack.
Right, it's seen as efficiency. But in English, especially American and British English, we are what sociologists call face-saving cultures to a certain extent. We use something called negative politeness. This comes from Brown and Levinson's politeness theory. Basically, we are terrified of imposing on people or embarrassing them, so direct disagreement feels like a slap in the face.
So we have to soften it. We have to wrap the disagreement in bubble wrap. That's why we call this soft disagreement. You almost never hear a polite native speaker say, you're wrong.
Never. Instead, we use what are called hedges. Hedges are words that make a statement less absolute. Common phrases would be, I'm not sure about that, or I see what you mean, but...
Let's analyze that second one. I see what you mean, but that phrase is doing so much heavy lifting. The first half, I see what you mean, validates the other person's logic. You're telling them you aren't crazy. Your thought process exists.
And then the but introduces your perspective. It's a pivot. Another great one for giving a different opinion is framing it as subjective. So instead of saying, that's a bad idea, you say, from my perspective, there might be a risk there. Or, personally, I feel like we should go another way.
By adding personally or from my perspective, you are removing the objective truth claim. You aren't saying this is bad. You're saying I see it as bad. It makes it impossible for the other person to tell you you're wrong because you're only talking about your own feelings.
It's a defensive shield. It's brilliant, really. And then there is the partial agreement. This is the diplomat's favorite tool. I agree to some extent, but...
I use that one constantly. It shows respect. It says we are 80% on the same page, but this 20% needs work.
Let's make this real for people. We have a few mini conversations here to demonstrate how this sounds in the wild. Let's do the first one. Scenario, 2 friends talking about food.
Okay, I'll start. I think fast food is actually pretty convenient.
Yeah, I get that, but I try not to eat it too often.
Okay, cut. Let's look at that. You didn't say fast food is unhealthy, stop eating it. You said, yeah, I get that. You acknowledged my point of convenience.
Exactly. I validated the convenience factor, but then I pivoted to my personal choice. I try not to eat it. I didn't tell you not to eat it. I just stated my preference. It's much less judgmental.
Let's try a higher stakes one, a work scenario. This is where careers are made or broken. I'll be the pushy colleague.
Go for it.
I think we should finish this project today.
I see your point, but I'm not sure we have enough time.
Ooh, that I'm not sure is classic. In reality, Emma, did you think we had enough time?
Absolutely not. I knew for a fact we didn't have time, but if I said, no, we don't have time, that's impossible, you would feel shut down. By saying, I'm not sure, I am inviting you to look at the clock and realize it for yourself. It's collaborative.
That is a key nuance. I'm not sure in English very rarely means I don't know. It almost always means I definitely know it's a bad idea, but I'm being nice about it.
It's code. You have to learn the code. Let's do one more. Casual disagreement. This is about taste.
Okay, I didn't really like that movie.
Really? I actually enjoyed it.
Now, the key here is intonation. How you said, really? It went up at the end. It sounded curious.
Right. If I had said it flatly, like, really? I liked it. It sounds judgmental. But a rising pitch, really, signals surprise and curiosity. It opens the door for you to explain why you didn't like it rather than shutting you down.
That brings us to a really important section, what to avoid. We've touched on this, but let's be explicit. There are phrases that act like conversational hand grenades.
Yes, phrases like, you're wrong, that's stupid, or even, I completely disagree.
I completely disagree sounds so formal, but it's actually very aggressive. It leaves no room for common ground. It builds a wall.
It triggers that fight or flight response in the brain. When someone hears, you're wrong, their brain treats it like a physical attack. They stop listening and start defending. So if your goal is to actually convince someone, being direct is usually the least effective strategy.
Unless, of course, it's an emergency. If I'm about to touch a hot stove, please don't say, I see your point, but perhaps that's hot. Just yell, stop.
Fair point. Context is everything. But in 99% of social and professional interactions, softening is the way to go.
So let's arm our listeners with a cheat sheet. If you take nothing else from this episode, memorize these quick, polite phrases. These are your Swiss Army knife for conversation.
Number 1, that makes sense. This is the ultimate validator. Even if you disagree with the conclusion, you can usually acknowledge that the logic makes sense.
Number 2, I get where you're coming from. This is great for emotional topics. It validates the person's background or feelings.
Number 3, fair point. Use this when someone scores a point against you in a debate. It shows you are confident enough to admit when the other person is right about something.
And my favorite, I hadn't thought about it that way. This is the ultimate compliment. It tells the speaker they have actually expanded your mind.
These are amazing conversation skills, and honestly, they make you more likable. People like talking to people who make them feel heard.
So, to wrap this up, what are the key takeaways here, Anno?
I think the big one is that being polite in English isn't about being fake. It's not about lying.
No, it's about clarity and respect. It's about keeping the channel of communication open so that the truth can actually be heard.
And small phrases make a huge difference. Swapping "you're wrong" for "I'm not sure" changes the entire trajectory of a relationship.
So here is our challenge to you for this week. Next time you disagree with someone, whether it's your spouse, your boss, or a friend, try one of these softer phrases.
Instead of the direct route, try the scenic route. Try, I see your point, but...
You'll be surprised how much smoother the conversation feels, and you might actually get your way more often.
Funny how that works. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for listening, everyone.
See you next time.